ceremonies for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing an exciting development in the EV industry. Many countries are recognizing the importance of electric mobility for a sustainable future, and today is an opportune moment for us to discuss policies and business opportunities in the presence of distinguished experts from ASEAN and Korea. The forum will consist of 3 sessions: a keynote session, Session 1 on policy, and Session 2 on business opportunities. Session 1 and 2 will consist of presentations from prominent representatives, followed by a discussion and Q&A. Now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce His Excellency Kim Hae-yong, Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, for his opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency with a big round of applause.
안녕하십니까. Good afternoon and good morning to ASEAN friends. Her Excellency Maria Theresa Dizon-de Vega, Ambassador of Republic of Philippines to Korea, is also she is joining us on behalf of ASEAN community in Seoul. I really thank you for your presence today. And Mr. Lee Seunghoon, Advisor to the Global Electric Vehicle Association Network, and also Mr. Edmund Araga, President of ASEAN Electric Vehicle Association, and other distinguished speakers and business leaders and online viewers. I extend my warmest welcome to all of you attending the 6th ASEAN-Korea Electric Vehicle Forum here on this beautiful island of Jeju. I would also like to express my gratitude to Global Electric Vehicle Association Network and the International Electric Vehicle Expo Committee for their contributions in organizing this important forum. Distinguished guests, the damaging effects of climate change are no secret. Our global society is aligning its agenda toward reducing greenhouse gas emission, and at the forefront of this initiative, electric vehicles lie. According to International Energy Agency, the transportation sector accounts for 16% of global gas emissions. Therefore, the increased production and adoption of electric vehicles is a key means to reducing emissions in the transportation sector. Fortunately, the world is on a good trajectory. In 2022, electric vehicles made up of 14% of world's passenger vehicle sales in comparison to 9% in 2021. Goldman Sachs reported early this year, electric vehicles will account for nearly half of new car sales by 2035. Major economies such as United States and European Union setting their ambitious targets, whereby US aims to have at least 54% of new vehicles sold to be electric by 2030, and the latter, EU, at least 30 million zero-emission cars on European roads by 2030. In line with this global initiative, Korea was also accelerating its efforts toward greener mobility. The government has vowed to have 1.13 million electric vehicles on the road and 45,000 charging stations by 2025. Major domestic automakers like Hyundai Motor Group are spearheading e-mobility in the private sector. In 2022, it was ranked as 4th largest electric vehicle producer with a global market share of 10%. Recently, President Yoon Suk-yeol visited the newly opened Kia Motors electric vehicle production facility in Hwaseong and vowed to boost Korea's electric vehicle production capacity fivefold by 2030. Meanwhile, the efforts of our ASEAN partners shall not go unnoticed. Indonesia aims to develop ASEAN electric vehicle ecosystem during its chairmanship and announced its national electric vehicle aspiration, covering production increase in raw materials, batteries, and vehicles. Indonesia is committed to producing 2.2 million electric cars by 2030. Other ASEAN countries share this agenda. Malaysia will have electric vehicles account for 15% of total sales by 2030. Today, we have many Philippines colleagues here. The Philippines hopes to have all new car sales to be electric by 2040, while Thailand will have electric cars fully dominate the road by 2035. Ladies and gentlemen, electric vehicle sector is ripe with opportunities. The global trend is calling for new investments in all areas, from battery technology, manufacturing, and expansion of charging infrastructure. In fact, the new Hyundai electric vehicle plant in Indonesia that just started operation last year have already rolled out more than 80,000 units. Hence, it is imperative we build on this momentum. Since its establishment in 2009, our center, the ASEAN-Korea Center, has continuously sought to strengthen the economic and social-cultural cooperation between ASEAN and Korea. In this vein, we are striving to promote trade in innovative sectors such as electric vehicle industry. The road toward electric mobility still presents its challenges. Restricted trade policies, entry barriers to battery technology, and lack of electric vehicle charging infrastructure, to name a few. Yet, the combined strengths of ASEAN and Korea and the concerted efforts between public and private sectors will pave the road for a cleaner, safer, and prosperous further future for both regions. Finally, I thank you once again for attending our forum. I hope today's discourse on the policies, business opportunities will accelerate ASEAN and Korea's collaboration toward e-mobility. I look forward to an afternoon of valuable insights and enlightenment. I thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Secretary General. I would now like to invite Dr. Lee Seunghoon, advisor to the organizing committee of the IEVE, for his welcome remarks. Please welcome him with a big hand.
As Mr. Kim enumerated all the names of distinguished guests and very meaningful points of electricity vehicle industries, I am planning to deliver just simple welcoming address. On behalf of Organization Committee, I extend my warmest welcome to all the participants, local and abroad, to this wonderful forum. In particular, I cannot afford to miss to congratulate Chairman Edmund Araga for the keynote speaker of today's session on his receiving honorable award yesterday afternoon. I was there, and it was a really fantastic moment. Congratulations again. Third world today is still struggling to catch up the advanced industrial powers. And the task is by no means easy, as the gap is too wide. maybe hundreds of years. E-mobility, however, is a different area. It's a completely new business. The so-called, the first front runner, Tesla, is ahead of us only by 20 years or so. So we can easily catch up if we follow the right track. If we get together like today, very often, and exchange our opinions and improve our collaborations, then it will be far easier for us to catch up the Tesla and the other front runners, and third world will be developing its e-mobility industries shoulder to shoulder to the advanced countries. So there is really a chance for us. Jeju is not only a lovely island, but also a good place for such takeoff through collaborations, meetings and discussions and exchanging opinions. So I indeed welcome all of you again to this wonderful forum. Hope all of you get something out of this first meeting so that you can facilitate the development of e-mobility in your country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee Seunghoon. Last but not least, let us greet Her Excellency Maria Theresa Dizon-de Vega, Ambassador of the Republic of Philippines to Korea, for her congratulatory remarks. Please welcome Her Excellency with a warm round of applause.
His Excellency Kim Hae-yong, the Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, Dr. Lee Seung-hoon, the Advisor to the Organizing Committee of the IEVE, our very recent awardee and President of the ASEAN Federation of EV Associations, Mr. Edmund Araga, distinguished speakers and experts, ladies and gentlemen, mabuhay, anyong hashimnika, good day to everyone joining us for this very important session. A year ago, I was privileged to deliver brief remarks at last year's EV Forum, and I am honored to do so again during this milestone 10th year for the International E-Vehicle Expo, which continues to grow under the leadership of Chairman Kim Dae-wan. I am likewise very pleased to convey my congratulations on the dynamic partnership between the ASEAN-Korea Center and IEVE in co-organizing for the first time this special forum focused on developments in the EV sector in ASEAN. The partnership is truly a testament to the forward-looking and sustainability focus of the AKC under the leadership of Ambassador Kim and also the IEVE. And both of these organizations continue to raise the profile of the EV industry. I am likewise looking forward to hearing the presentations, inputs, and views of the EV industry policymakers, implementers, and innovators from both the government and business sectors this afternoon. In December 2021, the results of a survey of 8 ASEAN EV markets on the potential for the growth of the EV industries in the region was released. The survey was conducted in August of the same year with the support of the ASEAN Center of Energy and the University Technology Malaysia, and the survey was conducted with respondents from the government, the private sector, and the academe in Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Some interesting points were revealed in the survey responses, such as on the positive side, it was clear across the board that the ASEAN region is receptive to transitioning towards e-vehicles. However, the exercise likewise showed that a great amount of work needs to be undertaken to address awareness and consumer attitudes towards EVs, the need for more education and incentives to push the EV uptake even further, the implementing strategies and policies to manage EV transition, and the deployment of the necessary infrastructure to truly make the EV industry viable and sustainable. Furthermore, as the EV technology is very rapidly accelerating, ASEAN countries, including the Philippines, will need to play catch-up with the more mature EV industries in key countries in Europe, the United States, China, Japan, and of course, our host Korea. I am sure a more comprehensive view of the EV industry in the region will be provided by our keynote speaker, Mr. Araga. And on the part of the Philippines, we are very fortunate to have on one of the panels today, Executive Director Corazon Halili-Dichosa of the Board of Investments of the Philippines and Director Patrick Aquino of the Department of Energy to talk about the prospects for the EV industry in our country. The Philippines is now in the midst of rolling out the implementation of the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act, or the AFEVA law, as well as the governance, incentives, capacity building, and resource elements, including the critical green material supply needed for the EV industry and its ecosystem. These components are among the features of the Philippines' comprehensive roadmap for the e-vehicle industry, which our experts will be discussing later. Ladies and gentlemen, the road ahead for the EV sector is, as mentioned by Ambassador Kim, fraught with challenges for the ASEAN region, but also replete with opportunities for policies and incentives benchmarking, for supply chain and manufacturing technology cooperation, and consumer education and engagement, particularly with Korea, one of ASEAN's closest partners in green growth and technology, and with whom countries in our region, both bilaterally and multilaterally, share a common commitment to a more sustainable and resilient future. Once again, I convey my congratulations and thanks to the ASEAN-Korea Center and to the ever-growing IEVE family. Maraming salamat. Thank you. Kamsahamnida.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your remarks. Before we proceed, let me remind our online viewers to use the YouTube live chat to pose any questions or comments regarding the forum. Your virtual presence is much appreciated. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Edmund Araga, President of the ASEAN Federation of EV Associations, for his keynote presentation. Please welcome Mr. Araga with a round of applause.
Good afternoon. Indulgence for my voice because I lost it somewhere else. Yesterday was really a very exciting and surprising award that we had as an association. Again, good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of ASEAN Federation of Electric Vehicle Association, it is my honor and pleasure to be the keynote speaker for this event. His Excellency Lee Min-ho, Ambassador Lee Min-ho, Her Excellency Ambassador Theresa de Vega. Good afternoon. We are very happy that we present before you as to our setup in ASEAN. We would like to start up on introducing our association. As Asian Federation of Electric Vehicle Associations is considered ASEAN, but we cannot make use of ASEAN word for the meantime, temporarily, because we have to make an approval from the organizing committee of ASEAN organization. So temporarily, we would make use of Asian Federation of Electric Vehicle Associations. And this comprises of Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and recently Periklindo from Indonesia. It started way back 2017 through the efforts and partnership and collaboration with our very own Madam Halili-Dichosa from Board of Investments under DTI, Department of Trade and Industry, wherein they spearheaded and set up this event way back 2017 during the host meeting of Philippines 2017, September. Our mission is to promote electric vehicle adaptation and catalyze the development and harmonization of standards within the region. We envision to be an integral part in making the industry viable in the region through the sharing, promotion, and facilitation of best practices, research and development, and continuous improvements in industry networking. With this, there is a big factor that Gayan was able to help us out. As you could see there on the screen, Chairman Kim is there joining us, witnessing the 2017 ASEAN, the first ASEAN Electric and Hybrid Vehicle Summit. In that, what are our key elements? Cooperation on the promotion of harmonized electric vehicle standards and technologies, networking within the region, within member associations, promoting joint ventures, collaboration of business entities, sharing of best practices, and other relevant information regarding the industry. We also would like to highlight our future. The future is on the students. We have been able to come up with the academic chapters from different member countries to work together with the private sector and the government. So in this, we were able to establish last year our first ASEAN Federation Electric Vehicle Summit Policy Dialogue, which took place in the Philippines last October 20 and 21 at the SMX Convention Center, wherein it is being participated by our members together with ASEAN Center for Energy, represented from one of the executives of ASEAN ACE. Together, we were able to establish camaraderie and bilateral talks and discussing the standards and its policies. Now, as we come to the vehicle facts and trends, this is the graph that we gathered from each and every member countries. Car ownership ratio in the ASEAN has a wide disparity. Personal cars are the most affected during the pandemic season, and commercial vehicles and motorcycle sales are expected to rebound faster due to the increasing e-commerce. Motorcycles are expected to grow faster due to the need for personal mobility beyond the pandemic due to virus phobia. In terms of statistics, these are the comparison data from Thailand, Philippines, Singapore, and Malaysia, wherein we gathered as of 2021 data from Thailand, from Philippines, and from Singapore as of 2019, and Malaysia. And these are the graph that we included, wherein the number of vehicles that is being registered under the member countries. In terms of adoption targets, we were able to highlight the targets being provided for by each member countries from Thailand, Philippines, and Singapore. As to ASEAN EV infrastructure and targets, we were able to gather from Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Philippines as to its major push within the next 10 years. In terms of consumer views, as being mentioned by Ambassador Theresa de Vega, the reception of the consumers from each member countries are widely accepted, and that in this kind of way that we are having, we really see the potential of the EV industry in the region. In terms of incentives, we gather all the incentives being provided for by Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia, wherein most are from the Thailand in terms of incentives as to corporate tax, and as to compare to Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. I think the screen is too big for you to read, so I don't want to read it over again because it would be dull. You might sleep while I was presenting. So indulgence for that, so I can, you would see clearly on this in terms of industry incentives on import duty and other tax exemptions, comparison between Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And only in Thailand that has subsidies in terms of research and development grants, human resource development grants, and the investment support. This one can be attested by our representative from Thailand, the Vice President, Mr. Morog. And in Philippines, research and development grants are being provided for as well. In terms of purchase incentives, purchase subsidies were provided for in Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. In Philippines and Vietnam, we don't have yet. In terms of tax incentives, most have incentives on tax, except we didn't get details exactly from Singapore. Now, in terms of type approval regulations, most are on the adoption of UNR, or United Nations regulations, in that it builds when we establish the industry, we have to come up and secure the standards, regulations, and policies, in that adoptions are being brought up by Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Philippines under United Nations regulations. If you would just notice there that in Philippines, there is adoption but no local enabling regulation yet, as we are still working in progress on those under the Bureau of Philippine Standards Technical Committee 89. So we are still in the works, and more work has to be done. In terms of policy direction, mostly focus on manufacturing incentives, and consumer side incentives are mostly limited to purchase tax exemption or reduction in increasing realization for subsidies. In terms of increasing willingness to support public transportation, in EV adoption is a must. And then there is a strong efforts toward adoption and implementation of EV homologation regulations is needed within the region. Through that ends my presentation. And I hope I was able to deliver whatever expectations you might be on our 5 member countries. Next year, expects additional members from Laos and Vietnam officially, hoping that we could complete the 10 member countries of ASEAN region, and hoping that we could be accredited by ASEAN organization officially by next year. Again, on behalf of ASEAN Federation of Electric Vehicle Association, and as the President of Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines, we would like to thank Global Electric Vehicle Association Network for bringing us together in this wonderful event, bringing us closer, collaboration, working together in camaraderie, and most especially, we are all united as one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Araga, for the insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the break, I kindly ask you to fill out the survey placed before you. Our online viewers may also find the survey in the YouTube description box. We will have a short break. See you again at 2:45. Also, drinks are prepared for the break, so please feel free to help yourself from the table on your left. to return to their seats. 네네네. 앉아 계시면 좀 이따 호명해 드릴게요. Welcome back. We will now Welcome back. We will now proceed to session 1, EV policies of ASEAN and Korea. The session will consist of 10 minutes presentations by 5 speakers and a discussion round led by Mr. Joshua Nui, head of the Trade and Investment Unit of the ASEAN-Korea Center. I now invite Mr. MinHa, Secretary General of the Korea EV Association, for his presentation. Mr. Lee, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. As introduced, I am Lee MinHa, Secretary General of Korea Electric Vehicle Association. In this ASEAN-Korea EV Forum first session, I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me. And I'd like to talk about our works in terms of EV. And I'll tell you about the strength and weakness. First, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the members of AKG and IEVE and participants of 10 countries of ASEAN. Before I start my presentation, I'd like to introduce the KEVA. It's a Korean representative EV association which has more than 80 companies, including completed units, batteries, charging infrastructure, and EV parts. We are joined by many related members, and I am very happy to share Korea's infrastructure distribution, and I'm very happy to share our association's past. And our past experience will be very helpful to ASEAN countries. We have 4 sectors. First, producer, including Hyundai Motors and other manufacturers. Second, battery producers, including LG and Samsung SDI. These are large companies. Third, the most important thing, charging infrastructure. In this section, many companies are members of our association, and some of them already entered into ASEAN countries. Due to COVID-19, people were afraid of seeing people in person, but in 3 years, this forum is held. So I appreciate everyone for coming. So I introduced my organization briefly, and I'm going to talk about the Korean EV policies and infrastructure policies and major countries' EV dissemination status, and I'll tell you of ASEAN countries' e-mobility industry status. Its EV dissemination status. In terms of Korea, it has introduced a lot of roadmaps. From 2010 to 2022, there has been a lot of policies. But against the policy, the dissemination could not catch up with that. We had some mistakes, but there are many separated policies. This made it difficult for dissemination. And there were battery performance issues and charging infrastructures, establishment issues. This made it difficult for dissemination. However, Korea first introduced EVs in Jeju Island, and now accumulated 400,000 cars, EVs, are in Korea. It's been 10 years. But it's activated since the platform was developed. That was about 2016 to 2017. Since then, the dissemination skyrocketed. As I heard from the presentation before, 2025 goal is more than 1.14 million EVs. From the perspective of today, I think we will be able to make it. So Korea is aiming to increase the number of hydrogen cars, and the status is as you can see. The most important for EV dissemination is, as you can see, we have 10% of EVs, but the most important thing is 4 sectors. First, purchase promotion. Second, ease of execution. Third, cost-effective administration fee. And fourth, consistency with other policies. But on top of that, ban on ICE cars are important. And also, charging infrastructure support is needed. And it has small side effects, as you can see on the chart. Next, EV policies. There are some considerations which cuts into 4 sectors. First, eco-friendliness and technical feasibility and energy security and economic viability. And when it comes to roadmap and policies development, each of them must be analyzed and comprehensively studied. Let's move to EV dissemination policies in major countries. As I heard before the presentation, these are subsidy status of advanced countries. For dissemination, in the early stage, subsidies are must. Otherwise, we cannot popularize EVs. You can see the examples of major countries. They promoted subsidies to disseminate EVs in their countries. For example, the UK and Germany in 2021 stopped subsidies. And then it turned out to be the decrease of dissemination of EVs, so they restarted providing subsidies. So they are now providing subsidies. So it's about subsidy on this chart. Actually, the most interesting part of EV is subsidies. And Korea is providing hybrid vehicle subsidies. In the beginning, it provided subsidies to hybrid vehicles. However, it stopped it, so now only EVs can get subsidies. The green says sales and the purple says supply. Yellow is the roadmap to dissemination of EV, including the ban of internal combustion engine cars. This chart shows EV market share status. As of 2023, China is 23%. Europe is 9% out of the whole new cars, and Korea is 5%. However, Korea was 7% in 2022. Next, let's move on to the EV charging infrastructure status. One thing is also important. There's a saying in Korean, which is first? Because both are important. So they ask, infra is more important, or infrastructure is more important, or EV is more important. But I think the most important thing is we should not ignore both of them. We must go together with that. Actually, the government has to lead the dissemination of EVs first, as well as infrastructure, because it's very difficult to attract investment without the support of the government. So the government has to promote the public charging stations, and then it will be followed by private actors, private players.
사실 이게 아울러 2020 보고서에서 나왔던 부분인데요.
This is EV Global Outlook 2020.
충전기도 있고
There are many chargers such as slow chargers and fast chargers and personal chargers and ultra-high chargers and super fast chargers,
도입되고 있습니다.
etc.
초기에 전기차 모델들의 어떤 배터리 용량은
The capacity of battery in the early stage was very small. However, recently, today's battery's capacity is about more than 7 kilometers. So the charging time can be longer. So the capacity of chargers is also increasing to make it faster. In last month, I visited Taiwanese e-mobility, and there was 460 kilowatt batteries were being used. So in rest area of highways, we can also see 350 kilometers watt charging stations. It's still in dissemination. According to the report, China has the highest position, and Korea is 1.1%. But in practice, there are some differences with the chart. Korea's charging infrastructure today is among the highest. And this year, the government is planning to increase public infrastructure through about 155 billion Korean won. As I heard from Secretary General, by 2030, we can have more than 500,000 charging infrastructure through the roadmap of our policies. And by last year, 2022, there were more than 20,000 fast chargers, and in total, it was about 200,000 total charging infrastructures. It's IEA report. This data shows that Korea has about 7,200 fast chargers and 14,800 slow chargers. And the number slightly increased from that of 2019. And the ratio of fast chargers are 33.6 per unit. And the whole chargers are about 9.8 per unit. That means we are short of charging infrastructures. However, when you are put together with fast chargers and slow chargers, that means the whole charger status is 9.8 per unit, so which is a little bit smaller. And this chart is about the EV charging infrastructure development plan. The government and charger operators, service providers, manufacturers, and other stakeholders are planning to develop. The whole stakeholders' roles are very important. And major countries' infrastructure policies, but because of the time constraint, I will skip this. The US, China, and Japan's infrastructure's policy status. And this is Japan's status. So I'll just briefly talk about this. And now it's Korea's infrastructure policies. Actually, we started disseminations through subsidies since 2011. And through many policies, we established charging infrastructures. We've been doing that. However, rest areas and public areas infrastructure were set since 2014. And we also have been doing that. However, we are not catching up with the dissemination of EVs according to the customers' opinions. Korea, 70% of population is living in apartment complex. So underneath the ground, they set up the charging stations. In those areas, it's very difficult to set up fast chargers. And there are many means of charging, such as smart charging and condenser charging. So to catch up with this, to keep up with this, the government is providing subsidies for chargers as well. And Korean people's personal chargers infrastructure cannot gain subsidies. In the beginning, the government provided, but in terms of personal chargers, they don't have it anymore. But I think in many ASEAN countries, the environment and circumstances are all different, such as Thailand, the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, and other countries. I've been there, but all the circumstances are different. So they should have their own policies to meet their needs. The dissemination of charging infrastructure is as important as EV dissemination. So, our policies will be very helpful for you to reflect on your own circumstances. Korea has charging stations in rest areas, in highways, and metropolitan areas, and southeast area. That's the majority. And actually, the most amount is parking areas and parking stations and rest area on highways. That's the most area where charging stations are established. In 2016, we analyzed the charging amount per unit. In 2016, the capacity was low. So it was about 10.52 kilometers. However, over 2019, it's increased to 16.93. The reason why is that as the battery capacity increases, so the charging capacity also increased. Next, Korea's 17 cities status. And Jeju Island is the greatest. That's far on the left. In terms of Korea, when we started dissemination of EV, Jeju took the 0.5% of the whole. So just one island became a test bed for EVs. And many people came to Jeju Island and tried and tested EVs. And mainland people had to come to Jeju Island to try EVs in the past. However, the boom of Jeju Island's EV expanded to mainland. So now the mainland has more infrastructures in metropolitan area of mainland. Next, our Korea EV charging station infrastructure operation status. Mostly, rest area takes the highest. Next is public area and parking areas, and which is followed by tourist attractions. Let's move to IEA Global EV Outlook. It's the ratio between the number of EVs and charging stations. Major countries are taking the highest place. In terms of Korea, Korea is also one of the highest, following those major countries. And it's the situation per year. It's the comparison between ICE stations and electric vehicle charging station. But because of time constraint, I'll skip this chart explanation. And this is about the explanation of the situation per region. Please pay attention to under 200. Can you see the red box? Charging stations disseminations can be checked in this red box. And on the left, and you can see the fact that when you have more dependency on the infrastructure, you need to establish more charging stations. And this is the future outlook for charging station infrastructure, how it will be changed. This picture shows Jeju, more about parking station. It has solar panels and together with electric cars, charging stations. And this photo shows 300 kilometers watts fast charging station situation. It has hydrogen charging stations, and other petroleum stations. So the ecosystem is becoming a mega station.
To the time constraint, please quickly finish your presentation.
Because of time constraint, I'll just tell you that in the future, all the infrastructure will be put together, not just about fuel charging station. And I also have prepared micro EV mobility as well, but unfortunately, I hope I will be able to tell you about this detail in Q&A sessions. And our association signed MOU with Thailand Association to share ideas. But in the future, I hope our associations will be able to expand our cooperation with other countries' associations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for your presentation. Next, let me call upon Mr. Dug-Gyou, ASEAN Specialist from the KOTRA.
네, 반갑습니다.
Very good to see you. As introduced, I'm Dug-Gyou from KOTRA. So, I am from ASEAN. I just arrived to Korea from ASEAN, more than anyone here. And since 2006, I've been working in ASEAN areas for about 16 years. So I was deployed on field, and I had a chance to look at the development of e-mobility and EVs. I have witnessed the recent things that happened. So in Indonesia, Hyundai Motors is selling Ioniq 5 and manufacturing Ioniq 5 there. So this is again what I witnessed. So today I will talk about e-mobility cooperation between ASEAN and Korea. So I'm sure you're well aware about KOTRA. We handle Korea's trade and investment, and we look at how the trade is going on. And I will briefly touch upon the EV industry, and I will also briefly talk about the environmental change that is towards the EVs. So this is Korea and Korea's exports. This is the HS code of EVs, 870380. So if you look at this code, there are major export ranking countries. USA, England, and Europe, North America are our major export destinations. And Southeast Asian countries does not make it to the top 10, which means that the EV collaboration between ASEAN countries and Korea are just starting. So more in numbers, if you look at the numbers, you can see USA, UK, Germany, Canada, and Sweden. So these are our top 5 EV exports of Korea. In the Southeast Asia, if you look at the blue chart, actually the size of the square is actually our export. You can see USA, UK, and EU. In the Southeast Asian countries, Indonesia is the biggest, and also you can see Malaysia there. The speed of development of Malaysia, if you look at the speed of development, it is about 8,000%. So that came out from nowhere. So, but still, when we go back to the numbers, we're not in the collaboration state yet. We are just starting our collaboration. So today, this forum, I believe, addresses the value chain and how can we use it as a growth driver. So again, country by country, we have export rankings. 2 countries are in our top 10. One, Thailand, and these are our numbers with Thailand. So this is as of today, so that you can compare this to other countries. Sorry, it was Indonesia. And Thailand is 22nd, and Indonesia is 22nd. If you add the imports and export together, then Thailand comes first. This is the global EV market, and global EV market status here. The size of the circle is the size of the market. And the position of the circle, the higher it goes, the more countries the country actually collaborates. So EU has a lot of collaboration, and again, it shows the potential of EV market. Unfortunately, you cannot see any Southeast Asian countries here, but I believe in venues such as this EV Forum, I believe more and more Southeast Asian countries will be up on the chart. So this is the current ASEAN EV industry. Let me talk about the challenges. This is from our Hanoi office. These are the reasons why there are challenges in the e-mobility or EV markets. The first thing here is There are exceptions as Singapore, but all in all, the overall GDP is around $5,000. So in reality, the purchasing power of e-mobility or EVs are not that high in Southeast Asian markets. Again, Secretary General Lee has addressed the infrastructure issue. Charging station is directly related to EV demand. So because we don't have any charging station, they don't buy EVs, and since they don't buy EVs, there's not more EV charging stations. Next one is the range of EVs. So with one charging, currently some high-end cars go over 500 kilometers, but most of the EVs in one charge goes from 200 to 400 kilometers. So if you cannot handle one day, then the lack of charging stations are very severe. Next is the subsidy. Most of the countries does not have room for EV subsidies. For the last 3 or 4 years, we had COVID pandemic, and we didn't have any room for this type of subsidies, so the growth is stagnant. In Southeast Asian countries, the lack of electric power itself is a challenge. So if you ask whether we can convert all these vehicles to EV, then you can supply enough electric power. That's another story. And another thing is that the industry in itself is made big by Japan and other countries, and not countries from Southeast Asia. And since Japan is not following the EV route, they are going hybrid. So again, the gap is quite high. And since Japan is focusing more on hybrid, the EV technology and EV budget is not going into the Southeast Asian countries. So again, all these are challenges for Southeast Asia. But still, we are doing this EV forum because the need of EV and e-mobility is needed because of our new environment. It's not about oil prices or simply gas prices, because globally we are facing carbon emission and our renewable energy issues as well. So in transportation also, the transition to EVs are quite accelerated, and there's a global agreement. And there's been some Kyoto protocols, and then in Kyoto Protocol we bought and sell carbon credits. But after Paris Agreement, for this transition, each countries have to agree on this carbon credit transfer. So now the situation is more severe. So for example, South Korea, Thailand, or other countries, they need to adopt EVs and reduce their carbon emission. So again, this is what I mentioned, the decrease of carbon emission. EVs might serve as a pushing power for reducing carbon emission. In Korea, the legislation has been already done, and in other countries, there's a policy documentation in Laos and Singapore, and there's been some declaration in Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam. So excluding Brunei and Philippines, all the ASEAN countries are doing some kind of movement, and we hope that Brunei and Philippines will join shortly after. Then we can say this transition towards EV will be closely related to carbon emission also. If we look at what has happened in EU, the carbon neutrality initiatives are a big thing, and transport is the biggest in carbon reduction, and the core of that is e-mobility. Of course, in this exposition, you can see electric ships or other machineries as well. But currently, for example, in Indonesia, the sales of motorcycle is 6 million per year. So in all ASEAN countries, the number of motorcycles are a lot. And if we can transition all these two-wheelers to EVs, then we can reduce a lot of carbon emission. Just like EU, ASEAN, and Korea need that transition in ground transportation. So this is the current status in Indonesia. I already mentioned, and actually we heard from the president of Indonesian subsidies, but we are seeing new subsidies in Indonesia. So it's not unlimited. Of course, there is some constraint. So during the COVID-19 era, we could not give any subsidies, but during the post-COVID era, Indonesia started a subsidy up to 200,000 vehicles for motorcycles, and for EVs, 35,900 cars will get subsidy. The size is about 7 million won. Compared to Korea, the number is still quite low, but still, they are very desperate so that they started the subsidy. So again, I believe the acceleration towards e-mobility is there. In Thailand, Hyundai Motors actually went to this country, and they also are doing domesticalization of the manufacturing. Up to 80% will be forced to be manufactured in Thailand. So again, they have to do locally here, also in Indonesia. So TKDN is happening in Indonesia, and in Thailand, they have sold 3.5 million units total. It's not per year. So Vietnam is quite new. VinFast has started their vehicle business, and they soon started the EV business. Last year, they even exported some of their vehicles to US. So it's not all out manufacturing or export, but still we can see some transition already happening in ASEAN countries, for example, in Vietnam. So I mentioned some collaboration, and if I may, to do some suggestions, since I was in ASEAN countries, and there are a lot of rich people in Indonesia also. There are a lot of Mercedes or BMWs, but their demand is quite limited because we don't have much infrastructure in these countries. And these are some personal demands, and it's very limited to cope up with just these personal demands. The public sector needs to do purchases, and for that, the government in the G20 in Bali, they mentioned that they will make a certain amount of purchase in public sector. So the government is leading the public sector purchase as well. Again, this public sector purchase will lead to more e-mobility companies to go into the domestic market. So other than Indonesia, other ASEAN countries have to follow that. So in Korea, we talk about EV selling, but more than just EV, we need e-mobility tailored to ASEAN countries, for example, two-wheelers and three-wheelers, more cheaper products. And with these products, we would be able to do collaboration in the general e-mobility factor. Again, more than four-wheelers, two- and three-wheelers will be tailored. And charging infra also. KEPCO is here. And to say that KEPCO has led all the charging infras of Korea, and the Southeast Asian countries might get that as a role model so that they can lead the infrastructure. And if the governments can cede the good parts to other foreign companies, then they can go into that market first, and then the local companies can follow. The basic thing is, I believe, to form a value chain. In the ICE vehicle, actually Japan made manufacturing bases in other Asian countries, ASEAN countries as well. But Japan is moving towards hybrid, and the Southeast Asian countries want to go EV. So this is where they need Korean manufacturers. And to promote that, we have to know more of each other. ASEAN countries have to know more about Korean part manufacturers, vice versa. It's just like marriage needs knowing of each other. Again, let me show an example to you, my example in Indonesia after this. And again, EV cooperation needs more than that. It have to be connected with carbon reduction or renewable energy. So that needs G2G cooperation as well. That will lead to a larger cooperation. In that sense, Korea's tool of ODA and EDCF or some budget supports can continue in a larger framework. There needs to be policies, there need to be standards, so that we can have a global value chain of parts, parts manufacturers and equipment manufacturers as well. So this is an example of KOTRA, and this is a Korean value chain of parts manufacturers. We have all the lists for specific parts. If you look at this, you can have all the manufacturers of Korean parts. ASEAN have to be ready with data like this. Then you would know that which country needs which industry, then we can help you with that. And we can form a global value chain in a real sense. So this is what I did in Indonesia when I first went to Indonesia. Actually, this book was published. This is a value chain map of Indonesian vehicle industry, all the directories, all the markets. This was a report. But unfortunately, COVID-19 broke out just after that. But hopefully, in Indonesia or in Southeast Asian countries or in ASEAN, we can do this together. And we can know which parts we can collaborate, and we can know which company can go into the local market. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bok, for your presentation. We kindly ask to keep your presentation time up to 10 minutes due to the time constraint. Thank you for your consideration. And next, let me invite Director Patrick Aquino from the Philippine Department of Energy.
Good day. I am Patrick Aquino, the Director of the Energy Utilization Management Bureau from the Philippine Department of Energy. I would like to thank the organizers of the 6th ASEAN-Korea Electric Vehicle Forum for the opportunity of allowing us to present the Philippines' comprehensive roadmap for the electric vehicle industry, or CREVI. CREVI will serve as the national development plan for the EV industry, with an annual work plan to accelerate the development, commercialization, and utilization of EVs in the Philippines. CREVI is a living document, and as such, it will be regularly updated. Inputs on the following will be made in subsequent updates of the CREVI. This would include targets for public transport under our Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program, or PUVMP, the EV Incentive Strategy, or EVIS, and the Identified Public and Private Buildings for the EV Charging Stations mandate. In 2021, based on recorded data from our Transportation Department, the number of registered EVs was recorded at just around 9,000 units, or of the nearly 13 million registered road transport motor vehicles in the Philippines. Starting from 2014 to 2022, we can see the development in the adoption of EVs in the country. Currently, there are 8 models of electric tricycles available in the local market, with 6 locally made and 2 are imported. As of the end of January 2023, there were 15 electric cars, sedans, SUVs, and UVs available, with the breakdown as follows: 7 BEVs, 8 PHEVs, and an HEV. Nationwide in the Philippines, motorcycles remain to be the primary choice of vehicle across our regions, followed by cars and sedans, as well as SUVs. The numbers you're seeing includes the units deployed under the market transformation through the introduction of energy-efficient vehicles, or e-trike project, which ended in 2019. On the other hand, several private initiatives have also started to mass deploy EVs and began their refleeting. As for sales performance, the number of EVs sold surged to more than threefold in 2022, with 3,091 units sold, in contrast to 843 in 2021, 378 units in 2020, and 214 units in 2019. The DOE, the Department of Energy, monitors EV charging stations through the EV policy guidelines with the assistance from our colleagues from the Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines, EVAP. To date, there are 32 charging stations registered from 338 EV charging stations monitored nationwide. These EV charging stations are around 258 AC chargers, 59 DC chargers, and 21 battery swapping stations. Note that this is not an exhaustive list, as the mandate for accreditation started with EVIDA. The private sector has also initiated partnership to integrate emerging technologies for EV charging stations in the country. Pilipinas Shell Corporation has teamed up with Sun Mobility to investigate the feasibility of deploying advanced battery swapping technologies for 2- and 3-wheelers. And then just recently, the Ayala Corporation, 917 Ventures, and Gogoro entered into a similar arrangement. These partnerships are, along with the EVIDA, promotes our goal of having a sustainable electric transportation for the Philippines. Local EV manufacturing and assembly are limited to electric jeepneys and electric tricycle. Jeepney manufacturing has been ongoing locally for more than a decade. There are currently 7 local companies engaged in the production of CKD assembly e-tricycles. The Philippines has 256 companies that cater to the domestic automotive market. These companies produce over 330 parts and components that cater to the OEM and aftermarket, having 40% and 60% of the producers respectively. The Philippines also has 8 battery manufacturers, which is limited to lead-acid battery production and battery pack assembly for lithium-ion-based batteries. The Philippines is a net importer of automotive vehicles. Preliminary figures from 2022 indicate that 74% of our vehicle imports come from ASEAN countries. 54% of that is Indonesia, 20% Thailand, followed by China with 12%, Japan with 6%, South Korea with 3%, the remaining 5% are from the rest of the world. As seen in the earlier slides, EV sales, while increasing, remain significantly smaller compared to our ICE vehicles. To accelerate the adoption of EVs, the Philippines has set a 0% import tariff for battery electric vehicles last January 2023 for a period of 5 years. This is expected to make EV costs more attractive to Filipino consumers. The CREV vision is to electrify a diverse range of vehicles and the establishment of a domestic EV industry built on sustainable future, where new EV and its required infrastructures are locally available and exported with reduced environmental impact. Industry goals include increased domestic EV utilization, deployment of sufficient EV charging stations, for the positioning of the Philippines as a producer and exporter of electric vehicles, promotion and growth for a just e-mobility transition, and support for research and development to strengthen industry competitiveness. To execute these targets, these are the required actions from the responsible stakeholders for the indicated periods. We will follow a phased approach on EV utilization with demonstration, refleeting, and promotion. The government will lead by example with the deployment of EV and EV charging stations. For manufacturing, improvements in manufacturing capability and pilot programs for local manufacturing sector. For research and development, battery storage, battery manufacturing, and EV manufacturing are our focus. For the human resource development, focus is on capacity building and the promotion of entrepreneurship. Capacity building, technical support, and international partnerships are also being pursued. Cross-cutting includes the integration of EV charging stations with clean energy sources, standardization of EV charging stations and electric vehicle, as well as the implementation of other related issuances. Under Executive Order number 12, as I previously mentioned, it covers battery electric vehicles except hybrid electric vehicles, again for a period of 5 years. This is aimed at incentivizing our consumers to purchase. I'm now flashing on the screen the big picture numbers under 2 scenarios. One is our business as usual, or BAU, our base case, wherein these are the 2023 and 2028 targets, 311,700 EVs with 7,400 EV charging stations. Our more aggressive clean energy scenario that sees our total EV fleet share at least 50% by 2040 at 2,454,200 EVs and 65,000 EV charging stations. Medium-term targets, again, business as usual is on the top, 580,500 electric vehicles with 14,000 EV charging stations. For our clean energy scenario, or CES, 1,851,500 EVs and 42,000 EV charging stations. And the long-term target, or by 2040, business as usual of 850,100 EVs and 20,300 EV CS, and clean energy scenario of 2,1,600 EVs and 65,000 EV charging stations. Under the forthcoming EV incentive strategy, the country is looking to leverage on its mineral resources for the production of batteries, specifically lithium batteries. We should note that these batteries require non-ferrous metals, including lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese, graphite, copper, aluminum, which some of these metals and minerals are found in the Philippines domestically. In 2020, the value of mineral production in our country reached 180 billion pesos. Figures shows the breakdown of our 2021 annual value of production from the Philippine metallic mineral sector. The Philippines' local nickel reserves mostly come from laterite form. Thus, potential for manufacturing and mining of minerals for battery production may be engaged, and actually our colleagues later on may touch on this. So that ends my presentation. Again, thank you for your kind attention. For more information, you can scan the QR codes for our IEVE, the law itself, the implementing rules and regulation, and our roadmap as flashed on the screen. Again, thank you at maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Director Aquino, for your presentation. Next, let us welcome Ms. Maria Corazon Halili-Dichosa, Executive Director from the Board of Investments, Philippines.
Thank you. Philippine Ambassador Maria Theresa de Vega, ASEAN-Korean Center Secretary General Hae-yong, fellow speakers, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Philippines is considered as one of the most vulnerable countries in the world due to its archipelagic makeup and location. Typhoons now are stronger and becoming year-round in the Philippines. A lot of people attribute it to climate change resulting from human activities, including transport. If no mitigating measures are implemented, it is likely to result in continuing and more severe climate changes in the country. So we in the BOI and DTI see electric vehicles as a key technology in the automotive industry to contribute to sustainable development with lower greenhouse gas emissions, less air pollution for citizens, and new job opportunities with positive social impact. Aside from environmental benefits, we also see the corresponding health benefits of electric vehicles, thus our journey towards automotive electrification. For this journey, we do need a lot of partnerships. The Philippine government has provided these support programs to encourage investors and partners to join us in this EV journey in the country. These include the Motor Vehicle Development Program, or MVDP, which allows registered participants to import their completely knocked down kits at 0% preferential tariff so they can do assembly in the Philippines at lower cost. Second is the Train Act, which provides for the exemption of EVs from excise tax and a 50% reduction of applicable excise tax for hybrid vehicles. The third is the one that was described by my colleague from the Department of Energy, the EV Industry Development Act, or EVIDA, which provides for the policy framework for local EV development covering fiscal incentives under the CREATE Act and non-fiscal incentives to facilitate the adoption of EVs in the country. EVIDA also provides for the crafting of the comprehensive roadmap on EV industry, as was discussed earlier as well. The fourth is the CREATE Act, which provides for the fiscal incentives like income tax holiday, additional deduction for some of the qualified expenses after the tax holiday, and duty exemptions on capital equipment and raw materials for your operations. And then the fifth one is the recently issued Executive Order number 12, which reduced the MFN duties to 0% for EVs completely built units for a period of 5 years. And then equally important, as we have these policy reforms, is the continuous build-up of an industrial ecosystem that will support the industry growth in the country. Very important is making sure that there are skilled people who can provide labor to the manufacturing and services enterprise in the Philippines. Our total population right now is around 113 million people, which is good for a market as well as skilled labor. This is forecasted to be around 125 million by 2030, and you will note that around 63% of the total population of the Philippines is working age. And based on the latest data, the Philippines has the youngest population with a median age of almost 26 years old. We graduate around 750,000 students, and of this, 86,000 are in the engineering and technology courses. The Filipinos are highly trainable with around 6 months learning curve and can easily adapt to work with any nationality or work environment. The government is keen on further intensifying efforts to upskill and reskill our workforce to the newer technologies that is required of the automotive industry. The government also continues to develop its infrastructure to facilitate movement of goods and people to support industrial growth. Early this year, the government approved 123 projects comprised mostly of improving physical connectivity, which would allow for more highways and roads for EVs to run on, including long-distance railways and upgrade of the Manila International Airport. The list also includes water infrastructure, projects in digital connectivity, health, power and energy, agriculture, and others. Likewise, economic zones and information technology parks to support EV support services are also made available to help investors start up operations faster. The Philippines, as mentioned, has vast resources of green metals such as nickel and cobalt, which are key inputs for battery manufacturing. Currently, the Philippines has 2 HPAL plants, which are operated by Japanese companies, and are doing battery materials that are currently supplied to Japan for battery manufacturing. Additionally, the country is also rich in copper, which is likewise an important input for technology products. We would like to locally process these minerals, provide battery materials as part of the EV supply chain, in addition to the existing auto parts manufacturing industry in the country. Another critical component, of course, for automotive and the case technologies is electronics. In the Philippines, 73% of electronics firms are engaged in SMS with capabilities in back-end of chip fabrication, including testing, assembly, and packaging. We have a strong wiring harness and auto electronics manufacturing, as well as IC design services. With increased need for electronics in this age of advanced technologies and digitalization, the government is working with the local electronics industry to further strengthen its competencies and competitiveness to likewise support the growth of the local EV industry. Another critical industry is the IT BPM or BPO, especially in the engineering design and software development, where the Philippines have competencies as well. While engineering design is still an emerging industry, software development already has around 400 companies in the Philippines employing around 200,000 IT professionals. With a 7% growth rate, we expect the software development to play a greater role in the growth of the EV industry, or not just in the EV industry, but the other technologies that are related to mobility, for example, fintech. On a last note, the Philippine government will continue to work with industry stakeholders represented here by Mr. Edmund Araga of IEVE and Director Patrick Aquino from our Department of Energy to further strengthen the country's competitive industrial ecosystem to support EV industry development. And technology leaders like Korea can be assured of the strong intellectual property protection regime in the country. Note that the Philippines has not been in the USTR blacklist for at least the last 5 years. So thank you for your attention, and be part of the future of mobility and make it happen in the Philippines.
Thank you, Ms. Maria Corazon Halili-Dichosa, for your excellent presentation. Our last speaker for this session will be Mr. Tien, Commercial Attaché of the Embassy of Vietnam.
예, 여러분 안녕하십니까? 주한 베트남.
Good afternoon. As introduced, my name is Tao from the embassy in Vietnam.
The AKC and the IEVE for inviting me to speak today, and I am honored to share with you information about Vietnam electric vehicle development policy, as well as potential advantage and investment opportunity in electric vehicle industry in Vietnam. Yeah. My presentation is divided into 4 parts. The first part will provide general information in Vietnam, while the second part will focus the potential electric vehicle development in Vietnam. The third part will discuss policy support the development of Vietnam electric vehicle industry, and the fourth part will outline the advantage in us investing in Vietnam for Korean company. Yeah. As you know, Vietnam population estimates to be 100 million in 2023, ranking the third Southeast Asia and the fifth in the world, in which the number of the people under the 15 years old accounts 25%, and number of the people is working is accounts 70%. The average working age in Vietnam is 33 to 37. Vietnam has one of the fastest growing economy in the world, with a GDP of the 409 billion USD in 2023. With the advantage of the young population, fast economic development, and good ability to attract FDI, Vietnam has many advantages to developing high technology industry, includes electric vehicle and electronics. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of production of the electric vehicle battery play a vital role in the development of the electric vehicle in Vietnam. Vietnam has abundant key input material for electric vehicle battery production, including lithium, nickel, mangan, cobalt, and graphites, all conveniently available for the on-site mining, reduce the production cost, and directly serving the electric vehicle battery industry. When the electric vehicle industry development, the electric infrastructure to supply electric vehicle market will also expand significantly. Vietnam government is considering approach its power plant in the second quarter of 2023 to create favorable conditions for electric vehicle industry to development. This will provide sufficient infrastructure to electric vehicle development and meet COP26 standard on shifting fossil energy source to renewable, low carbon emission energy source. Vietnam is most potential electric car development market in the South Asia and expect to have 1 million electric car around 2028, growing rapidly in the periods 2030 and 2040. Yeah. So during 26th conference of the party to the United Nations Framework Convention in the climate change in Glasgow, UK in November, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh announced Vietnam's commitment to achieve net zero emission by 2050. This reflects a country's strong determination of focus on developing its industry, including the electric vehicle industry, and to pave the way for the inevitable development of Vietnam automobile industry. Vietnam has changed policy to encourage the development of electric car after conducting research. Recently, the government issued the decree exemption battery-powered electric car from registration fee for the 3 years from March 1st, 2022, and reducing the first registration fee to 50% of that for petrol on diesel car with the same number of the seats for the following 2 years. This new policy has attracted attention for potential electric car owners in the Vietnam market. Today, I would like to talk to you about the advantage of investing in Vietnam electric vehicle sector, especially for Korean investors. Firstly, I important to note that Korea is one of the Vietnam comprehensive strategic partner alongside China, Russia, and India. This partner provides a solid foundation for Korean business for fuel secure in continue their work investment, expand the production and business activity in Vietnam, particularly in the electric vehicle sector. Vietnam and South Korea has close trade and investment relationship, and they complement it very well. Korea remains the largest foreign investor. Vietnam with a total investment capital of the 82 billion USD and nearly 10,000 projects implemented. In addition, the trade turnover between Vietnam and Korea is projected to reach 100 billion USD by 2023. Moreover, Vietnam offers many policy for investors in general, Korean investors in particular, making it the attractive destination for investment to electric vehicle industry. Yeah. Thank you for your attention. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Tien, for your presentation. Thank you to all the speakers for your thorough and insightful presentations. Let us proceed to the discussion round. We are now setting the stage for the discussion round. So it seems like the stage is being prepared. We will now proceed to the discussion round. Could the moderator and 5 speakers approach the stage? Could all the speakers from session 1 could approach the stage for the discussion? Thank you. Mr. Joshua Nui will be leading the discussion and Q&A. So for the discussion session, Mr. Joshua Nui will be the moderator. And Mr. Joshua, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, MC. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Joshua Ngui, the head of Trade and Investment Unit of ASEAN-Korea Center, and I will be the moderator for both the question and answer session. So allow me to recap session 1 of the ASEAN-Korean EV policy sharing session, where we have heard presentation from selected ASEAN member state as well as Korea on relevant EV policies in respective country, as well as government policies and measures to promote the uptake of electric vehicles, as well as the development of e-mobility industry. So firstly, we have heard from Mr. MinHa from KEVA, providing a bird's eye view on EV dissemination policy as well as EV charging facility infrastructure status in major countries, with specific attention given to Korea, as well as the positive outlook on global electric vehicles and battery market amid the rising international oil prices and environmental policy in selected major countries. Next, we have Mr. Pok from KOTRA suggesting areas for ASEAN-Korea e-mobility cooperation, among others, establish regional EV industry value chain, as well as to utilize e-mobility demand in public sector, as well as the charging infra as well. Next, we have Director Patrick Aquino of the Philippines. Department of Energy share the Philippines' comprehensive roadmap for EV, in which there is a distinct of the action as well as the clear energy scenario, as well as the business as usual, giving a number of the achievement that is going to be achieved, as well as we have Executive Director Corazon of the BOI share Philippine industrial ecosystem that can support the EV industry development. And last but not least, we have Mr. Tien from the Vietnam Embassy to ROK outlining the potential of EV development in Vietnam, as well as the added advantage provided by the Vietnamese government for investing in the EV sector in Vietnam. And to start the ball rolling, we have some questions for our panelists. Of course, for online viewers as well as the on-site participants here, you are free to raise any question and to list out the question on the YouTube live chat. So I will just go first to Mr. MinHa. So Our question is, in relation to selected AMS initiative on set roadmaps, policies, and regulation to vitalize the EV market, is there any advice that KEVA can provide to AMS in relation to sustainable EV policy planning as well as the implementation of EV charging infrastructure to be initiated in ASEAN member states?
Yeah. Thank you. When I was giving presentation, because of time constraint, I could not deliver everything I thought. What I want to tell you is that, most of all, rather than ASEAN 10 countries, Korea is a leader in terms of EV dissemination, so our experience can be reflected to ASEAN 10 countries as a reference. That's what I hope. What's important in dissemination is 5 sectors, actually. First, subsidies. I told you during the presentation, without subsidies, that's very difficult to enter into the market in the early stage. Therefore, the government role is very important. There are many issues about this. Leading from the public is essential. Otherwise, it will be difficult. In the early stage, Korean government led the disseminations with related facilities. Through those policies, we can see what it is in Korea. Second, charging infrastructure establishment. Without infrastructure, EVs cannot be disseminated easy. So, huge amount of budget is required for the establishment, but it's very burdensome for companies to invest in that because they cannot make profit in the early stage, so it's difficult to attract it. Therefore, the public sector has to lead the dissemination of infrastructure. And then private sectors will be able to join the investment in the infrastructure. In terms of Korea, there is a Ministry of Environment which led the establishment of the infrastructure. And then, so far, still the government is leading the dissemination of the infrastructure. However, since 2023, as a test, we are privatizing the establishment of the infrastructure for test. In terms of 450 stations, they are being privatization. So in the future, in total, the total infrastructure will be privatized as a goal. And ASEAN countries would need standardization. In terms of standardization for charging infrastructure, in the early stage, we had 3 arms in the charger because it was convert way and other ways and NC33 ways. So it had 3 arms, 3 nozzles, which separated into European ways and Japanese ways and the US ways. So it's all different. Therefore, in the early stage, Korea lacked the standardization, so they had to invest huge money for infrastructure. However, we solved this problem in 2016 through standardization. So we use combo 2 only. So this will be also a lesson for ASEAN countries' infrastructure establishment so that you can reduce your budget. And then fourth, policies and acts were mainly about ICEs. That means we need acts for EVs, also regulations. for dissemination, we would need a lot of regulations. Therefore, we need to review and renew the regulations by paying attention to EV roadmaps, which requires the communication with the government. And lastly, our association in 2014 visited European 4 countries and had tour to see around Germany, Norway, France, and the Netherlands for site visits. And then we saw dissemination of EVs and the situation of electric charger infrastructure to apply it into Korea. And in 2015, we visited China for a week to learn from them, such as bus companies and electric bus companies and BYD, to learn from them so that we can apply it in Korea. And in 2016, we also visited Japan. That time, Japan had more infrastructure than that of Korea. However, it's all different today. Japan is following us at the moment. Anyway, Japan is promoting hybrid ways. So Toyota, Nissan, Honda, and other manufacturers don't have electric vehicles. And also Toyota is developing EV, however, its mileage is very small. So people are not supporting that. Therefore, Korea is leading in terms of EV rather than Japan. And we are learning from advanced countries in terms of EV so that as we do, ASEAN countries can reflect on their situations by learning from other advanced EV countries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. Yeah. Okay, we note that the importance of government-led subsidies, the charging infra, and then as well as the infrastructure development, the policy act, as well as the importance of benchmarking exercises. So yeah, we will, I think out the MS here, we will take note of the suggestion by KEVA. And then next, we will just ask the question to Mr. Pork. So from KOTRA. So our question is, as announced in ROK Indo-Pacific Strategy as well as Korea ASEAN Solidarity Initiative KASI, ROK intends to promote Korean companies' investment and entry into ASEAN e-mobility market to foster a thriving e-mobility ecosystem in ASEAN member states. So is there any KOTRA initial plan to complement the Korean government initiative outlined in KASI?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Actually, the agency for promoting trade and investment, and we have been promoting the cooperation between the company level, the Korean exporter, and the Korean potential investor in this industry. We try to encourage them to increase their investment and increase their export to that area. But as I told you, KOTRA is not in charge of the whole strategy or whole program. Actually, we are the implementer of the Korean government policy. But still, we have been working on building up those global value chain. Especially, we analyzed the EV structure in ASEAN member states. And we will keep doing that one. And we have a lot of tools to support Korean companies for the seminar or exhibition or delegation. And we will keep working on it because furthermore, we will promote the cooperation between the carbon reduction cooperation also. So those e-mobility cooperation will join with that carbon reduction cooperation. The KOTRA is a strong commitment in promoting that one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pork. So we look forward to more cooperation or initiative of KOTRA in ASEAN member state. Thank you. And next for Mr. Patrick Aquino. So in relation to the Philippines' comprehensive roadmap for the EV industry outlined in the short, medium, short, medium, and long term from 2023 to 2040. Can you elaborate more on the role of foreign investor can play to ensure the successful implementation of the roadmap?
Thank you. What we did highlight in the presentation is that the Philippines, as of the moment, is a net importer of vehicles. So definitely our foreign partners' participation in bringing in those electric vehicles are very important. And one of the things that we take note of is on the lessons learned from Korea, as well as from the review made by KOTRA, that yes, we have limited physical space in terms of rolling out the infrastructure. So it's not just bringing in the electric vehicles, making it available to us. More importantly, we'll also be requiring support and investments with respect to the EV charging infrastructure itself. And I think that cuts across the region. I'd like to also get an ask from our colleagues who are really manufacturing electric vehicles. I've attended this like my second or third forum. And what's very evidently clear is that two-wheelers, for example, are very important in making those options. And having those cost-effective options are really something that ASEAN member countries like the Philippines is looking forward. In the meantime, we'd also welcome to be part of the value chain on electric vehicles. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I believe that the EV Forum, like the current one, will be a very good opportunity for Philippines to be able to have more B2B meeting as well as to meet potential investor into the ASEAN member state. Yes, and for Executive Director Corazon, our question is, in the context of ASEAN-Korea cooperation, are there any promising areas or specific subsector in relation to e-mobility that the Philippines would like to invite ASEAN and Korean investor to invest or to form joint ventures with Philippine companies?
Thank you, Joshua. Well, of course, our focus will be on really developing the EV supply chain, not only manufacturing, but the services that go itself with the developing of manufactured goods or engineered products. So we start, for example, with research and development. We said that we have a lot of critical minerals in the Philippines, but of course, we are still on the lookout for new technologies that will really optimize the use of these minerals to develop battery technologies in the country. So currently, the most popular one will be the high-pressure acid leaching technology, but these are expensive. So if there are actually technologies that would be cheaper, that will produce the same technologies that will be required of the newer electric vehicles, of course, that will be part of what we want to do with ASEAN and Korea. Secondly, of course, is utilizing the parts manufacturing. We do have a lot of auto electronics, but a lot of other parts in building up an electric vehicle still lacking in the Philippines. Of course, we can build on the existing car parts for the conventional cars, but there are other materials that we think are very good to focus on, like composite materials for the body of the EVs. I think it is better that we develop these materials so that we can optimize and make the batteries more efficient in running. So these are things that I think the Philippines, since we also have a very strong skilled labor and research and development labor in the Philippines, plus a very strong science and technology agency also in the country. I think this would be the priority focus of cooperation that we would like to do with ASEAN and Korea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, for Mr. Tien, our question is, can you elaborate more on the incentive that the Vietnam government is providing for the assembly and production of electric cars and or EV manufacturers in Vietnam?
Thank you, sir. As you know, Vietnam has no explicit policy framework and incentives for electric vehicle industry. The government has been applying several solutions to promote EV electric vehicle through sustainable development plans, including for focused states, sustainable development, green growth, climate change, and environmental protection laws. The policy frameworks and policy frameworks dedicated to EV and charging infrastructure development is still in its stage. Yeah.
Okay, we take note of your answers, and if there is no other question, yes, yes. Yes, we have a question from the floor. Yes, Datuk Dennis Chua from EV Association of Malaysia. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I would like to ask a very specific question. Basically, we are in ASEAN, and especially Malaysia, we have the industry that can able to develop or manufacture electric vehicle, especially the two-wheelers. I can see that in Korea, there are also technologies that they have developed, the powertrain, the controller. You can see the exhibitor here. They have all these parts that can able to support the ASEAN countries. This couple of years when we got to know all these suppliers is definitely a yes, we can actually work together. But along the way, we doesn't able to work on it. There is one hurdles that we cannot able to achieve, meaning that it's always require funding, capital investment. You can get the supplier and we can have the market, we can manufacture in ASEAN countries. So is there a specific funds that we can work together with Korea Association or EV Association whereby there is this matching funds that can be able to develop where you want to bring the Korean suppliers to, let's say, Malaysia or ASEAN countries. In order for them to go over, they also need to have capital. So they are expecting Malaysians or ASEAN countries that whoever want to develop the product to have the capital, where it's pretty hard for them to be able to have this investment. So if let's say there is assistance of capital, specifically funding, and if we can get funding from here, we also can request from our government to have a matching funding to be able to do R&D in Malaysia. So would that be possible? If it's not Malaysia, we can actually look into ASEAN. If let's say the funding can be in Philippines, can be in Thailand, this is where we can able to see that we can develop a product together with ASEAN and Korea, or we can actually make manufacturing make in ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. And I would open the floor to Mr. Lee or Mr. Bot. Do you have any answer with regards to this? Any specific fund that can have a possible corroboration?
That was a good question. Without capitals, there's no development. So what we need is investment. As he said, ASEAN 10 countries have technologies and everything, however, they need investors. But if you have technology, you can attract technology. Normally, if technologies can be used in the market is the most important part. And Korea has a lot of R&D to attract fund, and many companies are doing that, making efforts. And many projects are filtered. That means their technologies cannot be applied at the moment. Anyway, it has to make profit in the end. That demonstration is important and needed, including Korea and other ASEAN countries. have a lot of competent companies with technology. That means they will be able to attract investment.
Okay, related with the funding issue, actually, I already reflected in my presentation. If you remember the last sentence, I emphasized that the Korean EDCF and ODA fund can be utilized to promote this cooperation. But actually, there is a suggestion of the direction. But substantially, if your business model is robust and strong enough, maybe you can find a private fund from Korea or even ASEAN countries also. Recently, I got an offer from a Korean company who has a strong, very competent technology. They want to find their partners in Indonesia. And then Indonesia, of course, Indonesia's GDP per capita is pretty low, but still there are a lot of rich men over there. And if there are some companies who, even though they are totally in different industries, they are strongly interested in developing their business in e-mobility business. So I recommended the Korean company's technology to them, and they are discussing that issue now. So building up the proper business model, which can be examined and which can be proved. Actually, not only you don't need to focus on only technology. You can focus on marketing capacity and the demand and everything. Because as an investor, we will consider everything. Okay, I don't want to take any risk. So if you have a strong business plan, you can rely on that private investment from the venture capital and other things. But if you want to depend on the government fund, the public fund, as for Korean side, you know, if the Korean government has to invest the money to their side, there is two sides. One, to help ASEAN countries. There are some kind of fund, Korean ASEAN Economic Cooperation Fund, maybe, but it will be much more difficult to use that one because there are a lot of standard and criteria things. The other thing is Korean government already prepared some fund for carbon reduction also. So if you can build up that technology and if you can replace the fossil fuel combustion engine vehicle, there might be a reduction record, right? If the reduction record can be used by Korean government, maybe that kind of fund can be used. But it has another hurdle too, because after the Paris Protocol, each government has to agree with the transfer of that record. So we have a lot of options. You can choose that option which might be fit with your current situation. But utilizing Korean fund without any reward, and maybe it's not easy. So you can think about the situation and choose the one of the option proper one. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to all the panelists for your insightful answers to the question raised on respective presentation. Next, I will pass back the floor to the MC for the subsequent session. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Joshua and our distinguished speakers for the fruitful discussion. We will continue with our session 2, Business and Investment Opportunities for ASEAN and Korea. As we reset the stage, I kindly ask for your patience. And also for our speakers, please kindly be noted that the allotted time for each presentation is 10 minutes, so please keep time for the sufficient time for the discussion and Q&A. format as before. Now, I would like to invite Datu Dennis Cha, President of EV Association Malaysia, to the stage for his presentation.
Hi, I'm Dennis Chua from Malaysia. I'm currently the president of Electric Vehicle Association of Malaysia and also the member of AFEVA, ASEAN Federation Electric Vehicle Associations. So first of all, when we start establishing the Electric Vehicle Association Malaysia, we are actually looking into as early as 2010 or 2009 to be able to implement electric vehicle. But where does that knowledge come from? In year 2000, Malaysia already have companies that start doing R&D for lithium batteries. From the lithium batteries where we develop into drones batteries, not only for mobile phones, but during that time we developed the batteries for drones and for devices, and then it goes to electric vehicle. So during that time, Malaysian government already established the policy, our national automotive policy for electric vehicle. I would say that we are very, very early where we already established policies for two-wheelers and also four-wheelers. During that time, two-wheelers, we only allow two-wheelers which is L3 category, and this policy have been approved. Why L3 is because we need our vehicle that no restriction to be able to run to on the expressway, which require 55 kilometer and above. So we have a two-wheelers which already have a L3 policy established since 2012. And on top of that, with our automotive policy, we do have provide hybrid vehicles, tax exemptions, hybrid vehicles starting from 2012. Which is imports of hybrid vehicles with zero excise duty and also zero on importation duty. So that was a time where we were able to establish first the hybrid vehicle. And during that time until today, we already have almost 50,000 hybrid vehicles running on the road. And going forward, this is definitely, we keep improving on our national automotive policy, where hybrid vehicles have reduced, and going forward, the government is promoting the battery electric vehicle. And at this moment, battery electric vehicle, we are Malaysian government, starting from last year, whoever import electric vehicle, even a grey imports, we do not require to pay approved permits. There is a zero value to pay for approved permits. We also have implemented 0% of import duties and also excise duty. There is a short period of time that we don't even need to pay for SSD, sales tax, which is like a VAT. So our vehicle from there on have increased for about 5,000 units from last year onwards. On top of that, the automotive policy, which do not require to pay for road tax. This is a very, very aggressive move by our government. So where is this push and also motivation come from? Which is the Malaysian government at the early stage already committed to the Paris Agreement to reduce the carbon emissions. And this is the shift of reduction of carbon emission. In terms of Malaysia, it's pretty, I would say, pretty hard for us to be able to implement electric vehicle if we do not have all this incentive. Why? Because our petrol price are subsidized. So this is one of the area, even though it's subsidized at a very low price on petrol, our government determination is to be able to reduce the subsidies, and they are speeding up to be able to bring in more BEV vehicles so that people use less petrol, and they will automatically reduce the subsidies on petrol. So you can see that, of course, going forward, the Malaysia started with manufacturing capabilities. We have our semiconductor, and we also have our electronics companies in Malaysia. We do have all the expertise, and at an early stage, there are already several companies that are supplying equipments, automation equipments to a tier 1 electric vehicle manufacturers in US and also in Europe. So these are very strong. We have a very strong manufacturing arm which is able to focus into supplying parts to manufactured electric vehicle. So one of the areas is that the government also do provide tax incentive and grants to be able to get ourselves, our local industries to be ready to support the electric vehicle parts supplying. So as I say, because of our petrol is subsidized. The government is using many others indirect ways to increase the adoptions of electric vehicle. This is one of it, is that our Bursa Malaysia is our stock exchange regulation and regulatory, whereby they make it compulsory for all the public listed company to be able to comply to ESG compliance, environment on the ESG compliance, which one of it is the transport sector contribute. I would say that transport sector contribute the most on the carbon reduction. So this is one of a way where to get more companies to adopt to electric vehicle, or even to manufacture parts for electric vehicles. So this is my short presentations for Malaysia environment, and I want to put my contacts here for everyone to be able to contact me, because we need to increase our manufacturing and our industry in Malaysia, whereby we hope that we can actually collaborate more with the Korean companies. In terms of course, R&D, I would say that Korean have a very early start with R&D on electric vehicle components, and I hope that we can able to collaborate even further to be able to produce and manufacture electric vehicle components in Malaysia, and we have the opportunity to be able to supply to the ASEAN countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis Cha, for your presentation. Now, let us welcome Mr. Surot Sengsunet, Vice President of EV Association Thailand, for his presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, next slide, please. To keep my time in 10 minutes. Okay. I will have three main agenda. First, introduction about the EVE in Thailand, and also the EV status in Thailand, and the outlook and opportunity. First of all, we have our EVE, our Electrical Vehicle Association of Thailand. We have established in November 2015. Right now, we have about 30 committees. And our goal is actually to promote the usage and the educational to the people of Thailand. These are our members, over 276 corporate members. And as you can see here, most of them are the car maker and the charging station provider, and also 111 regular member, which is consisting of professors from university and so on. And our key event that we have represented in the past, first of all, the IEV Tech, we have do just like what we are doing here today in Thailand. This year will be our second round in August 30 to the 1st of September, which actually we introduced the technology to the Thai people, to the students in the event. And then the second key event is the electrical motorcycle conversion contest. This is our second round. We have the student or company who can modify the existing ICE motorcycle and convert it to the electric, which is actually happening now in Thailand. That's the reason why Kun John is not here today. Okay. To actually support the two-wheeler. And also we have many cooperation with many members, including from Korea, as mentioned earlier, and also part of our mission as the education introduction to that people will not be surprised with the EV technology in Thailand. Therefore, we have the MOU signing with the Vocational Commission to actually this year we will send our engineer from our members to train the teacher in the vocational school so that they can design the course, and once they graduate, there's no surprise for the EV. Okay. And also with the cooperation with what we are here today. And the second one will be the EV status. As many people already, enemy speaker already mentioned about the global. Okay. As you can see, compared to the 2017, we have 85 million cars, ICE, with only 1.2 EV. I mean, fully 100% electric. Okay. And 2022, we have 64, maybe due to COVID, that's why the number has dropped down. But actually, the increase of 10 million, 10.6 million BEV in global. And if you look at the ASEAN country alone, including Malaysia, Indonesia, everybody on the ASEAN country, the total is 3.2 million vehicle. With ICE 3.2, but only 236 EV in 2017. But if you look at the 2022 last year, the number is very similar, but look at the amount of EV, 22,000, maybe due to the cost of the subsidy policy that we have in Thailand last year. Okay. And if you look at the Thailand alone, if you compare to the BEV in 2019, with from 200 now go to 1,500 and go up all the way to 20,000 last year. Okay, registered, not sell. Okay, and if you look at this year alone, as of as Mr. Ahmed's presentation was a little bit later, mine was more updated to the 31st of March. Registered of BEV is already 21,000 from compared to last year. Okay, and as you can see, in the mostly in Thailand, it's the sedan vehicle, and 5,000 of motorcycle, and 90 of three-wheeler, and 600 buses. Okay, mostly sedan, not two-wheeler yet. And if you look at the registration compared to the car, the sedan, the motorcycle, and the three-wheeler and the bus, the amount of the vehicle is going similar to the sedan, but actually the volume of the motorcycle a lot more. So compared to percentage, it's a lot less than sedan in Thailand. Now the charging station, you can see the amount of sales, the registration of the EV is going up exponential. But you look at the charging station, it's nearly flat. So it surely be a problem in Thailand at the moment. So including next year, so if you are in Korean company have any investor to want to go and develop the charging facility, I think we really need it. If you compare to the AC charger, the whole country, updated now, the latest, only 2,400 AC and only 1,300 DC charger nationwide. And if you compare to the amount of the EV that's selling in Thailand, it's now 15:1 ratio. So actually, if you look at the special occasion like New Year, a lot of people going up country, there will be a lot of waiting line in the charging station. And, oh sorry, we go back a little bit. Maybe because of the, if you look to the investor, service provider of the charging station, they are all private sector. And a few like PA, the Provincial Electric Authority, and this is the electric company, all state-owned, non-government. Currently, that's the reason why. And also the policy of the charging station is still under developing. The opportunity now, look at the target of the Thai government. We actually plan to have in 2030, 400,000 usage of vehicle in Thailand, which is about 50% of the car yearly. And the motorcycle is 65,000. This actually the target that the government set. It's actually possible. But if you look at the infrastructure, the charging station facility, that is going very, very low, so maybe not possible. So we have a lot of work to do in Thailand to build up the infrastructure. Otherwise, we will never meet this target. And the reason why the BEV in Thailand sales go up very fast, exponential, is due to the excise policy. Last year and this year, the Thai government allowed to import in the complete built vehicle, BEV, from any country at all, with 0% import duty and 2% excise. Also from Korea, from any country at all. In the past, before this policy, we only have the ASEAN-China FTA, that you can only import BEV complete CBU from China with 0% import duty and 8% tax, excise tax. So with this subsidy policy, we are welcome to any country in the world. Okay. But you allow only to, for the car under 2 million MSRP, Thai baht. Okay. So if the car is over 2 million, you can only reduce the import duty up to 20%. Okay. And the pickup truck cannot import, only built in the country. Okay. And also for the motorcycle, less than 150,000 MSRP, you can get 18,000 baht subsidy. Last year and this year, allowed to import CBU. Doesn't matter amount, how many that you bring in. In the next 2 years, next year and the year after, you have to produce local BEV to pay back whatever you import in. And also you still get the subsidy, and you also still get the 2% excise. But have to be locally manufactured in Thailand. This policy, there are actually 9 manufacturers signed an MOU with the excise department. but currently only 4 companies are actively. All 4 are from China. The MG, BYD, Great Wall, and Neta. And the next policy will be supporting the battery manufacturer in Thailand. This is still a draft because the Prime Minister has already announced the dissolve of the government before they can approve this. Okay? And there will also be another subsidy policy for the BEV in Thailand. They call, we supposed to continue from the version I presented earlier, but also still cannot announce due to the government. We have to wait until the new election. Okay. So the last year, this year import, next year and the year after manufacture. The new policy will be next year and the year after import. Okay. Similar but the next program, maybe less incentive, more payback time, things like this, not officially announced yet. Okay, that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Surod Sangsunet, for your presentation. Next, let me call upon Mr. Dizon-de, Vice President of Dongsin Motec, for his presentation.
Good afternoon. I will pack my presentation in 10 minutes, no matter what happens. It is a great honor for me to talk to all the distinguished guests today and have a chance to introduce our company. Again, thank you very much for your time. So I'm currently in charge of Dongsin Motec's new businesses, and I am also the CEO of BSP. My name is Soon-tae Che. Now I will briefly introduce my company Dongsin Motec and the current global expansion status. Dongsin Motec was established in 1995, and in 2001 we started supplying body parts for Samsung Motors. Currently it's Renault. So it was the beginning for us as a professional press parts manufacturers. And afterwards, we did our first overseas expansion with our Pune plant in India for GM. And in 2013, we started to work with LG Energy Solutions battery pack business. And since then, we were able to establish factories in Poland and China, Nanjing. So we started our full overseas expansion. And back in 2019, so we started to produce Twizy OEM. It was Renault's ultra compact EV. And in 2020, we started working with Netherlands Carver for their 3-wheeled electric scooter. And we are mass producing for 100 exports to Europe. So for our subsidiary companies, our battery pack related business is done by DSEV. And for micromobility business, BSP Solutions is handling that. And another business we're doing is automation equipment manufacturing, which is DS1. This is our currently factory status. There are 6 factories in Korea, 2 are in Poland, 1 is in China. And by 2024, next year, we will be completing our Canada factory. So by 2024, we will have 10 factories globally. Most of the factories are linked to LG Energy Solutions battery pack business. There are battery pack manufacturing factories. And again, the factories are for these type of locations. So these charts shows the current status of our part supplies to Renault Korea. So we have press parts, and most of them are manufactured in-house. We manufacture them. This chart also shows the battery pack supply to LG Energy Solution. Left, you can see the battery pack cases, battery pack housings made of steel. And on the right side, there's cell covering modules. These are manufactured with aluminum. So most of our products are sold to LG Energy Solutions. And LG Energy Solutions sell these parts to 16 car makers around the world. And our affiliate company, BSP, so produces part for Renault's Twizy and three-wheeled electric scooter Carver, and we're exporting to Europe. The specs, you can see the specs on the table. And another thing we do at Dongxin Motec is designing and producing this frame. So we design the frames, and we have excellent capacity to produce these types of frames. This is our Busan factory. We made Twizy here. And also this is our Kimhae plant. We produce carvers. The Kimhae plant is a bit smaller. But late this month, this will be transferred to Haman plant, which is 3 times larger. So there are 2 types of carver. One is for 2 passengers, and one is for 1 passenger and a cargo. You can actually see this vehicle exhibited in first floor here. Another thing is battery pack that we do for micromobility. It's not high capacity for BEVs. It's for micromobility battery packs. This for speeds less than 10 kilometers per hour. One in the upper side is for Twizy. And we use LG Energy Solutions pouch cells. Our battery pack for Carver is also assembled by us. We use LG Energy Solution and Samsung SDI's cylinder cells. So Dongxin Motec's future strategic businesses, for Dongxin Motec and BSP also, we plan for platform business for micromobility. So in markets where micromobility has high utilization, we are preparing business for them. So with this micromobility platform, we can offer new business opportunities for micromobility manufacturing companies. And Renault's Twizy, currently manufactured, will be discontinued in this year, in 2023. So Dongxin Motec is negotiating with Renault France so that we can continue the Twizy production. So again, negotiations are going on, but I believe it's currently positive, and with Renault's approval, we'll be able to make a full business plan. As you can see here, Dongxin Motec manufactures the platform, and customers can use our platform to customize their EVs. So again, this is our platform business. Currently, for this platform business, we are conducting a global survey. The result is not perfect yet, but some of the manufacturers are interested in this survey. Pakistan, UAE, Brazil, and also in Southeast Asian countries, we are doing survey for these companies that are interested. This is the next Twizy. It's not yet released, but we believe later this year it will be released in Europe, and again globally it will be released in early 2024. We'll be also doing the production in Korea. Compared to current Twizy, it has air conditioner and heater systems. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Mr. Choi-Sun-tae for your presentation. Last but not least, Mr. Kim Kwang-seok, Managing Director of Ujin Industrial Services, will deliver his presentation.
Finally. 마지막입니다.
It's my last presentation. I'll go briefly. Ujin is a bus manufacturer. Why bus is important? Many government agencies and associations talked about EVs, but mostly EVs are passenger cars. But commercial vehicles, bus has some features such as passenger cars can have 4 to 5 people, but bus can carry at least 48 people. So it can reduce carbon emission. And the battery requires 5 times bigger batteries. And in terms of ownership, passenger cars are private cars, so the subsidy goes to private. However, bus has the public characteristic, so the government provides subsidy and which is run for the people. So we are a major producer of buses, so I'll share my experiences in terms of the barriers for cooperation. But I'd like to introduce my history because I'm involved in Ujin. We are public transportation producer and we also provide solutions. In 1974, it was founded. And we paid attention to train industries. We are number 1 in terms of MRT, mass rapid transit. And we are also thinking about entering fast trains. We have provided 1,300 cars so far, and we have also provided 44 cars in foreign countries. We started electric bus business in 2019. We have Apollo brand. Its sizes differs from 7, 11, 12 meters. And we also have 2.5 tons trucks. For about 4 years, we have sold more than 500 buses. Including this year, I'm expecting 700 buses sold. Our characteristic is that all the technologies are internalized. We have a factory in Ochang. We provide 200 buses annually. So next year, we are moving our factory to Kimcheon so that we can produce electric bus as many as 1,000 buses a year. Let me introduce our factories. To the left, it's our headquarter factory. It's in Chungcheongbuk-do. And another factory is in Jeongpyeong for electric vehicles. And Ochang produces buses, and it will move to Kimcheon for expansion of production. Through our business, I found some issues, including regulations and competition. It's unavoidable. Electric bus subsidies are provided for sure. However, the amount is about 70% from the government. So in total, practically, actually, the government is 100% of subsidies. But unfortunately, the subsidy is decreasing. The subsidy started from 2012 and it shrank, and this year the Ministry of Environment is keeping the same amount, but local government is decreasing its subsidies. It's about 5 million Korean won, but in the past it was about 70 million Korean won, but it's decreasing. But this trend, same, goes to China. China started subsidizing in 2008, but as time passed by, from this year, China stopped providing subsidies. So in my expectation, I have received subsidies for 10 years. So in 5 years, I think we will not be able to receive subsidies anymore from the government. So I'm thinking about how we can sell buses without subsidies. And there is a special rule saying the government has ownership of all the buses. However, private businesses can run those buses. Other countries run bus businesses, so we are not alone. However, the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, I don't know about what they are doing, but if it goes like that, the power of the government is very strong, such as rules and the process of purchase. Everything is touched by the government and controlled. So the perspective, the producers, they have to meet the regulations from the government. And we are competing fiercely in Korea. And there are some players, as you can see, there is Hyundai and there is Daewoo as well. But they stopped their business, that withdrawal. There is Edison Motors. They are in the process of M&A. And Woojin is at the moment expanding their market. But 70% is owned by the local makers and the 30% are owned by Chinese players. Chinese players entered into Korean market because they lost their subsidies from China, so they are hunting for Korean subsidies. But the government recognizes it, so they are working hard to protect Korean players by introducing policies. One is making differences of subsidy for batteries. So they provide subsidies depending on the difference of density, so which ranges from 30 to 50%. So we have a little bit of safeguard as a Korean company. For about 1 year, last year, we met a lot of foreign companies. But looks like there's an opportunity. Global EV business is expanding. And Asian EV market is expanding about 11%, and the transition is about 5%. Conversion rate is about 5%. But 90% of the entire EV is passenger cars, and 10% is about buses and others. But according to the data, the increasing trend is going together. But this 10% market, how can we operate this 10% market? That's what I am thinking about and considering. So in the playground with the regulation, we need to find our ways to promote our business. So we met a lot of foreign companies. They talked about that our company has a lot of bodybuilders because we have history of the business of ICE cars, so you can just provide us with chassis so that we can make final products. And the second one is, from the Philippines, I heard that they suggested joint venture. The reason why is that localization. So countries want to produce EV locally from 50 to 60. The best solution is joint venture. The second is technology transfer. But it's very risky for us. Why? We find it difficult to make money in Korea, and also we have to make money through investment in foreign countries. But as I heard before, if you have technologies, you will be able to attract investment, but that's not easy like that. Even joint venture does not gain any investment for 100%. So we have to find our ways, but it's not very easy. So in terms of JV, I think, first of all, it comes to my mind, it's risky. Third, in Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, they don't have subsidies when they buy new cars. That it means the price has to cut. So partners are thinking about reducing cost first. But of course, there is a differences in economy among countries. However, if they don't have subsidies, they have to reduce their cost. But if they reduce their cost, we will not be able to be competitive by reducing cost with China. In terms of bidding for the government, it's very difficult to win because it's depending on the price. So how we can solve this problem? What I'm suggesting is that, okay, we'll provide chassis, and in your country, you build body, and then you set the prices, and you go for bidding. So we will provide OEM, then technology and local production and price can be met in this way. So when we want to work with ASEAN, we can provide chassis for electric buses. By doing so, we will be able to have cooperation in terms of technology. Yeah, this is my last slide. The most difficult thing in cooperation is that one is time. We have a lot of suggestions from the government and companies, but we have to think about homologation first. It's a barrier. It takes about 2 years. In short, it's 1 year. During the time, things can be different, can be changed. Some companies can disappear. Then how we can handle the period of homologation? For example, it takes 4 months for homologation from Chinese buses to come to Korea. We have standardization authorities, and this requires other countries' standardization as well. So they try not to meet the standardization of other countries. So we have to consolidate these kind of standardization issues. Otherwise, the time will become longer, so we cannot make cooperation. just for the homologation issues. Another one is agent. One example. Let's say Malaysia has 2,000 buses. And many agents come to us. They say they all have 2,000 buses. But how should I what can I use for trust? We need some assessment or analysis. Or we need some report to trust our agents. But we cannot trust anyone. They just come to us and they suggest prices and they just give us very positive promises. But the result turns out to be negative. It has never succeeded. So we have to meet them in person. So we need those kind of people to talk to. Passenger cars are ready-made and it has standards. But bus is not like that. We have to reflect the situations such as left-hander, right-hander, driver's patterns. That means we need customization. So we need to recognize the local rules so that we can have technology meetings. This is essential. Otherwise, we fail. So we have wasted our time with no results. So we need to bring down the barriers of processes. With that, we will be able to cooperate with ASEAN companies. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers for your thorough and informative presentations. We will now continue to the discussion round. Just like the previous session, we are now setting the stage for the discussion and Q&A. While setting the stage, we would like to ask to fill out the survey placed before you. You could access the survey form through QR code on the table. It seems like the stage is being prepared. So let us proceed to the discussion round. Could the moderator and 4 speakers from session 2 approach the stage? So we will proceed to session 2 discussion round. Could the speakers from session 2 approach the stage? Mr. Joshua will be the moderator for the Session 2's discussion as well. Mr. Joshua, I yield the floor to you.
Okay, thank you, MC. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us again at the second session of the question and answer session. So, as per normal practice, I will just recap briefly about respective presentation. So first, Datuk Dennis Chua from EV Association of Malaysia share Malaysian national automotive policies to position Malaysia as the electric mobility marketplace in the region. And then next, Mr. Suraj from EV Association of Thailand share with us Thailand 2035 zero emission vehicle targets for all type of vehicles, as well as Thailand cabinet approved BEV support scheme. And Mr. Share from Dongshin Motec presented the growing niche market on micro-mobility, as well as the potential platform for new businesses in the global e-mobility industry. And last but not least, Mr. Kim from Woojin Industrial System share on the importance needs for collaboration for Korean manufacturers to enter ASEAN market through the introduction of trusted local partners and agents. So moving on to the question and answer session. So our first question will be for Datuk Dennis Chua with regards to for Datuk Dennis Chua from EV Association of Malaysia. So from your presentation, Datuk, we noticed that the Malaysian government have initiated some measure to promote the usage of EV, as well as to enhance Malaysia's position as the electric mobility marketplace in the region. Can you elaborate more on the preparation on the role of private sector, especially on the EV Association of Malaysia intends to play to ensure that the government target of 1.5 million EVs by 2040 is met? Datuk, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You can see that I don't provide the numbers because the government's target achievement keep changing. We have a 2020 target numbers, we have 2025. Now we are changing to 2030. First of all, I would say that most likely we won't be able to achieve it as well. But with the continuous improvements of incentive, as last year alone, when we approved the tax exemptions, import duty exemptions, AP value exempted, and also excise duty exempted without any terms and conditions, it open to all. Immediately we can see that our BEV have increased to about 5,000 units. And this year we will be able to achieve another 5,000 units. We can see from the records that previously from 2012, when we give tax exemptions for hybrids, we achieved 50,000 units. So this is a keep improving on the government sector. But with this, we also would like to see that the local industry play their roles into implementing the electric vehicles, especially on the components. So far, we don't talk about subsidies. Government do not like this word. Government always start from, whenever private sector and government, when we start talking, the first thing coming from government is that we don't have money. That is the first thing that the government say. So when we want to implement any BEV, private sector always look into, is there any incentive or especially money subsidies to be able to provide in order to bring down the cost. So this is one thing that it's not easy for us to be able to get the governments to provide subsidies. But all in all, if we're able to collaborate with technologies and also look into local manufacturing, whereby Malaysia have a very, very good industry, especially from the semiconductor. If you design a battery pack, you need electronic components, you need SMT, which we already have the players in the market. It's only to give both parties confidence. They already in this industry, but they are not coming into electric vehicle industry. Why? Because they don't see there's a profitability in a very short period of time. it's going to be a long period if they want to invest into this industry. As our colleague here, they've been sharing, it's not easy to have profits for this industry. But that is where, when there is a good policy with zero road tax, we see the vehicles have increased a lot. But on top of that, our association, we also want to focus more on the electric two-wheelers and electric three-wheelers. Two-wheelers, so far, we don't see many companies that coming in to come in and grab this opportunity. There is a vast opportunity because it takes lesser time, it takes lesser investment to be able to produce the product and roll out to the market. So I see that we have big opportunity on the ASEAN market, and also the policy are so clear that even the homologation, I believe that we're going to, across the whole ASEAN country, for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, is going to be a standard homologation. So please bear in mind that we have opportunity to grow on the electric two-wheelers and the electric three-wheelers. And also, when you talk about charging station, charging infrastructure, when you want to go into four wheels or commercial truck, now we see that it couldn't cope with the demand in the market. But two-wheelers, we don't have standard yet. All over the world, globally, two-wheelers, we are not using an AC Type 2 or CCS Type 2. This is the standard that we haven't really, in the discussion, to be able to come up with a standard for electric two-wheelers charging infrastructure. But if we're able to establish that, the market is big enough. In the ASEAN country, we have 680 million. We have almost 10 million units of two-wheelers every year, new sales. So with that, I see that the opportunity is very big to collaborate with the ASEAN countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratu. Actually, yeah, we know that of the potential of the two-wheeler. And then actually for Mr. Suraj, the question is somewhat similar. Is in relation to the Thailand government. They have provided the BEV support scheme. And then we would like to ask the EV Association of Thailand on, are there any initiative that is private sector led by the EV Association of Thailand? Yeah, Mr. Suraj, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Actually, private sector like our association play a very important role in the Thailand in order to, before they announce their policy or subsidy or anything. It took me 3 years to talk to the government to get this subsidy from our association. First of all, they say, just like in Malaysia, we have no money. Actually, I explained to them that the money is not something you have to take out and expend. Anyway, you have to use the money at the end of the way to improve the environment, to reduce the air pollution, things like this. So you use part of it to pay upfront. So in Thailand, they give us a lot of opportunity for the association to give them a feedback, like a public hearing, or they will announce this policy, what do you think? Then we do the survey, then we give them feedback. So it's a very important role. And for the associate alone, we also, as I mentioned, that we have a collaboration with the vocational school. Our responsibility is to let the Thai people educated with the EV so that they are not surprised when the EV have an accident on the road or whatsoever, that they know exactly what to do. This is also part of our job. So actually, association in Thailand, we play a very important role on the private sector before they announce any policy or anything like that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Suraj. And next, we have Mr. Chair from Dong Sing Motec. And our question is, we note that currently, the Dong Sing Motec is currently surveying several areas, including AMS, for micro-mobility production. Could you just elaborate more with regards to the outcome of this study or survey, particularly pertaining to the ASEAN countries, particularly Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam? Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, what we are are doing at Dongsin Motec and BSP together. We are doing survey, and one from our company is visiting foreign countries. Last year and until this February, we visited Middle East countries, for example, at the Emirates, Pakistan. We did survey in these Middle East countries, and UAE actually had many companies that showed interest. And starting last month, we started from Philippines, and actually that person is going all the Asian countries to do the survey. We believe the results will come out. Actually, the survey will end at August this year. And what we're doing is Renault Twizy's platform. Again, I mentioned that in this year, we are doing this conversation with Renault and with positive results. So we want to domesticalize all the parts of Twizy, and starting 2025, we will be fully doing our platform business. The Philippines, and actually we did a video conference with one Philippine company. And in Indonesia and Malaysia, we heard that some companies showed interest. And until this August, we will doing our survey until then. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully we will have a concrete outcome of your survey. So next, for Mr. Kim from Woojin Industry Services. So with regards to your slide on the ASEAN market size of 5,000 to 8,000 units by year 2030, providing potential big market opportunities for Korean manufacturers, what is Woojin Industry System short, medium, or long-term plan to penetrate the ASEAN market? Mr. Kim, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you. Our short-term, mid-term, long-term strategies are very difficult to set in terms of buses. The reason why is that we have some challenges, such as profitability. For bus manufacturers, the profitability is about, operation profit is about 5 to 7% expected. However, not any companies, bus producers, cannot create any operating profit. Then, what we have to do is to create operating profit. It's our homework, and then we can think about the next, because what we are facing today is really huge and serious. Electric buses business and EV business cannot make a lot of money. It's about technology transition. That's why we are participating in this project. Actually, ICE car manufacturers are making money, such as Toyota, Volkswagen, Hyundai Motors are producing a lot of ICEs because it can make money. EV market is created, but they think they will not be able to make a lot of profits through EVs. So if I just tell you my long-term goal and strategy is that cooperation. Through cooperation, we will cooperate with other countries with similar situation with Korea and become successful, and then we will be able to set another goal. We set a lot of long-term goals, but when time passes by, we usually fail to make it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kim, for the answers. And yeah, I think that's conclude our question and answer session today. And I would like to thank you, the panelists, for your answers. And then I would just pass back the floor to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you once again to Mr. Joshua and all the presenters for the fruitful and insightful discussion. This calls an end to the 6th ASEAN-Korea EV Forum. Thank you to our esteemed speakers and everyone attending the event. Before you leave, please not forget to fill out the survey. 이것으로 제6차
This concludes the 6th ASEAN-Korea EV Forum. Thank you very much for everyone who attended our session. Thank you very much.
pleasant evening. Just to inform one more thing,